Welcome to the Leadership Purpose with Robin podcast. I'm your host, Robin L. Owens, PhD, and this is where we dive in each week to give advice, tools, and tips for high-achieving women leaders, and we talk about leadership purpose and its importance for you. I am a college professor, and when I am not doing that, I am speaking, writing, coaching, mentoring, and teaching high-achieving women leaders how to find, and not only find, but how to stay in alignment with their leadership purpose so they can make a meaningful difference right there in their career, leadership, or business. Okay, let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here. And as I've said before, I'll say again, I really appreciate you listening in on the podcast, taking time out of your busy day and whatever you're doing at this time to listen in. Really appreciate that. And I am grateful that you have helped make the podcast rank in the top 10% of 2.6 million podcasts globally. So thank you for doing that. All right, so now let's jump right in. In today's episode, it's a little bit different than the other episodes. I'm going to feature or highlight a few episodes from the past to give you some encouragement as we're moving into the last month of this year, the last month of this calendar year, and as we are moving into holiday season after such a whirlwind of a year, over a year, but in particular, this past year has been a time of change and lots of good and also lots of discord throughout the year. So wherever you are and whatever's going on with you over the year, you may be like other women who are high achieving women like you, who are doing all the things, supporting everyone else, goal oriented, ambitious, getting the things done. And now we're coming to an end of the year. You might be reflecting on the year. You might be planning for the new year. In any case, you may be going through some sort of transition. And if you are thinking about or planning to or wondering about moving from one stage of life or work to another, you might be like many people you've heard about this year, especially in the past several months. People are leaving their positions and making changes in their life. They're doing what the media is calling the Great Resignation, leaving positions. I think they are reevaluating what's important to them, what they value. And so if you're like that and you have some sort of transition or change going on in your life, or if you just feel a sense of there's something inside, an internal call that's calling you to do something else, then I encourage you to go back and listen to episode 5. Episode 5, the title is Your Heroine's Journey with Susanna Liller. In that episode, Susanna talks about what we were just mentioning about transition. So if you're going through some sort of transition, some sort of change, you're trying to figure out what's next, you're not sure, you want to say what you're doing, then I encourage you to go back and listen to that episode. And I hope you will find it helpful to you. So here's a little bit of it to give you a sense of Susanna Liller.
And that has morphed into more working directly, individually, and in groups with women in transition. And I use an ancient story pattern called the hero's or the heroine's journey. I call it the heroine's journey because I work mostly with women, which is all about transition and moving from one stage in your life to another. And it's all about answering your internal call. What is it that your soul is urging you to do? So I help them hear that call, answer that call, and take the steps to go on the journey to become their next level of greatness.
The next episode I want to highlight is for you if you're feeling a sense of heavy responsibility. I mean, I'm guessing most of us are in responsible roles in life and work anyway, but if you're feeling an extra heavy sense about this responsibility, or if you're feeling like you've sort of lost sight about why you're doing what you're doing in your work, in your leadership, in your life, and you're just kind of rethinking, what am I doing here? Then I encourage you to listen to episode 6. And the title of the episode is Why Having No Plan is A Plan to Fail with Melna Jones. And that's episode 6 and talks about leadership, but especially managing this heavy responsibility. So here's a little bit for you to listen to give you a sense of Melna Jones.
You have to have purpose in your lives, especially for a leader, because you're carrying a great load of responsibility. And if you haven't defined what your purpose is in your role, then you run the risk of failing and failing miserably. How do you know where you're going? How do you know what actions you need to take to get you there if you don't have any idea what the purpose is?
Okay, now I want to highlight 2 more episodes. The next one may be interesting and worth your listening to, especially if you're feeling unfulfilled. Actually, I think it's worth listening to even if you're not. But in particular, if you're feeling unfulfilled, as we're coming to the end of the year, you're thinking about what you've been doing, and you have a feeling that this, what I'm doing in my work or in my leadership, in my career, in my business, is just not fulfilling like it once was, or that it hasn't been. So if that's you and you're thinking about that, I encourage you to listen to episode 15. And the title of the episode is Who Are You Willing to Be? With Jennifer Darling. And I think you find her story interesting. She talks about how she found fulfillment after a long search for it. And her story may encourage you. So here's a little bit of that episode now to give you a sense of Jennifer Darling.
I started in the advertising industry, and thankfully that's what I started in because it just naturally suited my personality. And I did that climbing for about 20 years. And I found myself in a place where I just wasn't feeling really fulfilled anymore. Like I was making every budget. I was making all the money in a corporate job. I was getting raises, doing all of the things that you would equal success. High achieving performer, but I just was not feeling very fulfilled. And so I spent several of my last years really trying to find something. And I would call it words like your word purpose. I'd look for my purpose. I'd look for my why. I would be looking. I had bought every book under the sun trying to find it. And I just was left empty.
The next and last episode I want to highlight here is particularly helpful to you if you are feeling stuck. If you're feeling stuck, just don't know what to do, just can't move forward in your work, in your leadership, in your business, in your career, in your life, just stuck. Then this episode number 17, and the title of it is What to Do When You're Feeling Stuck with yours truly, Robin L. Owens, PhD. All right, so what to do if you're feeling stuck. And this is a story that in this episode, I talk about my own story of discovering my leadership purpose. And I talk about a very pivotal point in my life in which my leadership purpose sort of what I call rose up from the ashes. And as you listen to the full episode, you'll get a sense of what that's all about, but how I found my leadership purpose. And here's just a little bit of that beginning story that set the whole thing in motion. So take a listen. Robin, your house is on fire. These are the words of a little boy from my neighborhood where I grew up. And I was coming home from the mall with a friend. And we were about 2 blocks away from the house. She was driving, and the little boy kind of saw the car and kind of ran up to the car. Robin, your house is on fire. And as we didn't know what he was talking about, and as we drove a little bit further, now about a block away, could see the flames from a block away, just towering over the other houses. So those are the episodes I'm highlighting for today. And I encourage you to go back and take a listen to them if you have listened before. And if you haven't, I encourage you to listen to them for the first time. I think you'll find them very insightful. Each of the guests that I interviewed are high achieving women themselves. They are experts in the field of leadership and in some cases, personal and professional development. But all of them are experts in their field, and they have wisdom, insight, and they have a sense of not just their expertise, but they're coming from their own experience and their own sense of care for others. and they're wanting to make a difference. And so I hope you listen, and I hope that you find those helpful. Now, if you're thinking about your own leadership purpose, because as you know, that's the title of this podcast, Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin. And we talk about leadership purpose in every episode. And so if it has you thinking, well, what is my leadership purpose? Or if it has you asking the question, I wonder, how closely am I following my own leadership purpose? Well, if that's the question you're asking, I encourage you to go over and take my quiz. I just created a quiz called How Closely Are You Following Your Leadership Purpose? How closely are you following your leadership purpose? It'll take you 5 minutes to take the quiz, and you can find it on my website. The website is robinlowens.com, robinlowens.com, and it's right there on the front page. How closely are you following your leadership purpose? So I hope you take the quiz and find out. And if you do, let me know how closely you're following your leadership purpose. Okay, everyone, that's our episode for today. I'm glad you're here and for listening in. I appreciate you as always. Until next time, this is Dr. Robin. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Leadership Purpose with Robin podcast. If you enjoyed it, head on over and rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. New episodes drop every week, and I can't wait to hang out with you again soon. Meanwhile, this is Robin signing off. See you next time.